Hi, good morning, everyone. So this is PC here, and as I mentioned in the beginning, so we'll wait for a few minutes. Okay, at least 8:10. So we'll start at 8:10. So because the demo session people started joining late, and also of course a weekend. So let's give the time, and we'll start in 5 more minutes. All right, let's start. So hi, are you able to see my screen deck?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so I think 1 minute. All right, so let's talk about data engineering. And my name is PC. And today we are talking about Azure data engineering. And for next 40 or 45 minutes, I'm going to talk about what exactly the data engineering is all about and what exactly you need to learn, why data engineering became popular, and what are the various components of the Azure data engineering, and in general what exact data engineer does, and what all you are going to learn, and what is the prerequisite that you need to have to get into these sessions. Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. right? So does anyone know? So I see around 10 people over here. So does anyone know what is data engineering? Have you heard about data engineering, anyone, before before coming into this session, or with your friends or your colleagues or relatives? Have you heard about data engineering anytime?
So data
No?
engineering, we can say working with the data
Mm-hmm.
or do like uh, different functioning with the data, like some ETL process and or converting data in different various forms, something like that.
Oh,
We
okay.
can
Yeah.
manipulate the data, cleaning the data, analyze the data, we can say.
Okay. Yes. Good.
Hmm.
Right. Anyone else? Okay, you're right. So partially yes. Most of the like definition is right actually. So it's all about preparing the data and giving the data, right? So what is data actually? So before getting into data engineering, what is data? Does anyone know about what is data? Does anyone know about data? What is data? When I say, if I say Giri, is it a data?
Yep.
Okay. So if I say Anita, is it a data?
Yes.
Huh. No, it might not be the data because it does. If I say Giri, if I say Anita, if I say Krishna, if I say Mukesh, it does not have any significance, or it does not have any quantifiable reasoning, right? So data should have some purpose, or data should have significance. Okay, if I say student name Anita, it's a data. Student name Giri, it's a data, and Giri scored 70 marks in so and so exam in so and so college, then it's a data, right? So anything which has some quantifiable information, which can be measured, which has some significance associated with that, it's a data. In general terminology, I'm saying, I'm not talking about any book terminology. I'm saying in terms of the generic terminology, right? So anything which talks about, can you go on mute, Anita? I don't know, I'm unable to mute you. Yeah. Right. So anything it talks of, anything, any information which has some significance associated with this called data. Now, over the period of time, if you see in your day-to-day life, everyone generates the data, right? You, me, and everyone, right? So if you see that the world is growing data day by day, okay? If you see every day, almost 328 million terabytes of the data is getting created. Now imagine how much data is getting into the system every day. Earlier, before computers or before internet, we used to have the data in the books, right? So if you want to have the train ticket, so train ticket, you need to visit the train railway station and get the ticket. If you want to have some transaction in the bank, go check, take a passbook and do the transaction and get the details. Okay, so that's everything is used to be manual and copied, and the data used to be very less. Okay, there was not much information to be associated with any kind of data, so people used to like do everything used to be manual. But after that, what happened, like slowly the concept of computers came to the picture. People started using the data, right? So like Excel, Word, or something, okay, they used to organize the data. Then the concept of data came into the picture, database came into the picture, like Oracle, SQL Server, these are all the databases. So whatever the data is available, so people started getting into the, sorry, people started creating the data, or people started managing the data and all, right? Now when the internet revolution started, the data the creation of the data got multifolded, isn't it? Because so much of the data is available in the market now. Everyone, even in the urban, rural, okay, you name it, everywhere there is a data is getting produce. So that's how you have so much of the data in the market, sorry, in the system. So there is a high availability of the data is available. So the organization thought, okay, unless you capture this data, you may not be able to success in the market, right? So that's how the database, data engineering, what do you call ETL, these are all came to picture. We'll talk about that evolution. But before that, what exactly the how exactly this data is getting produced? Every one of us, you, me, and every one of us, uh, directly or indirectly generates the data every day, right? Can anyone give me the example? How do we generate the data? How we are responsible for generating the data?
Like everyone nowadays using Instagram, WhatsApp, and all things there. Whatever in the we are typing messages and all things to store in the cloud database like that. We have some example. Real time only we are using the kind of thing.
Okay. Anything else in the day-to-day life?
Normally, whatever the views we mention, normally the videos or shorts we'll be watching. That also it will be having the data.
Great. So OTT platforms, your YouTube,
Yeah,
your Instagram. So these are all you're getting
number of
generating the data.
views, everything. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyone else? How you are producing the data? How from morning to night, every one of us, including me, you, your parents, everyone is generating the data. How? Your kids, if you have, of course. So in the morning, what do you do?
Might be television and
Right? That's what OTT
WhatsApp.
platforms.
WhatsApp.
What WhatsApp, yes. The moment you get up, first you take your WhatsApp. So there you are generating the data, good morning messages. Then you are generating the data, you are viewing the data. Then if you want something to eat, you are ordering something from the Swiggy, Zomato, then you are ordering something. Then of course the transaction is being generated in the backend. You are watching OTT platforms, you are generating data. So the new movie Odyssey came. So you go to you open the book my show, you book the ticket, then they're getting generated the data. You go to theater, you buy popcorn, there you are generating the data, right? And if you want to come back, then you are booking a Rapido or Ola or Uber, there you are generating data. If you have your own vehicle, you are getting the fuel in the petrol bunk, there you are generating the data by generating the transaction, right? And you are going to your store, nearby store, there you are generating the data, okay? And so on, so many components, okay, so many things. So from since morning to evening you perform whatever whatever the activity that you are performing, directly indirectly, that is causing a generation of the data. That's how so much of the data is getting generated. And you know how much so 328 million of terabyte of the data is getting generated. Now you know the significance of the data in the world, okay? So that is the reason every company, every organization try to tap the data and try to use it for their development purpose, business development. Okay. So that's about the data generation, right? So that is the reason if you see any industry, any company, any organization, you see tons of data related opportunities. That is the reason. Okay. So tons of data generated opportunities are available. Okay. So what exactly the data is actually, what is the data engineering? So before that, if I take a step back, so when the data got evolved, okay, when the data started in the copying and also then the data started database in the way back in like 80s or 90s. So when the concept of database came into the picture, so people started using the database, okay, for their all the backend operations. Then the front end, of course, the UI operation. Okay, suppose if you go to the bank, then the backend operations, front end the UI operations, right? So then the concept of database developer used to be there. Okay, what is the database developer? What he does, he just writes procedures, functions, right? Sorry, the tables, he creates the tables, he maintains the data. So that used to be available. Okay. Now over the period of time, so what happens? The data, let me write something. Yeah. So suppose there is a UI and there is a backend. Okay. So there is a UI, say suppose there is a backend. Okay. So what are the transaction you perform, that will be stored in the backend database. Okay, so over the period of time, what happens? This will have so much of the data, and whenever the company wants to assess its performance, what will do? They will query this data. They will try to get the insights from this backend database. Okay, so this is a backend database. So they will get some insights from this database and try to capture some of the insights out of it. Okay, that's how the database developer used to do. And everything, the transactional data, also the transactional data. So whatever the data that is being stored in the database is called transactional data. Okay, so as I mentioned, right? So you ordered something in the Swiggy. So what happens? A transaction will be generated and the data will be stored in few tables. Okay, table is nothing but if a table is nothing but a representation of the data in the form of rows and columns. Okay, we'll talk about it. So the data is getting stored in the backend database. Now, if I want to perform, if the company want to see, okay, how many ordered it got today in so and so area, the Swiggy. Okay, how many vegetarian transactions, how many non-vegetarian transactions, how many burgers, how many biryanis, who ordered most. Okay, these are all kind of assessment. If they want to do, they need to fire some queries. Okay, that's how the backend database. But what happens, like over the period of time, the data is getting increased. If you use the same database for the backend transactions, and also if they use the same database for your insights, okay, your assessment or your insights, so what happens? The weightage on this backend database will be increased. So that's how it became. So what happens over the period of time, the data got increased. People realize, hey, if I use the same database for both the purpose, for the storing the data and as well as for assessing or getting the insights, there will be a problem, right? So both the transactions also getting affected, and even when you're trying to get the insights, that is also getting affected, right? So people realize, okay, that should not be the case actually. Now we should have a separate database. Okay, separate database for performing the all the analytics on top of it. That's how the data warehouse came into the picture. So data warehouse is nothing but it is a separate database from the transactional database which will be used for to perform your analytics. So they get all the data, whatever the required data from this particular database, only required data, then they will use the. So that's how the concept of ETL developer, the concept of what do you call data warehousing developer came into the picture in the 2005 or 2008. Okay, so then everything was going fine and all. Then what happens over the period of time? The database is huge, and even the legacy data warehousing systems or the legacy databases were not efficient enough to manage that amount of the data. Okay, everyone was doing great. Okay, everyone used to be like they perform the queries, they store the data, but it was not efficient. Then the people realize, hey, there should be some one more system, some additional system or some enhanced system to perform these transactions and also that it can accommodate this data, because over the period of time, as the internet is increasing, as more and more systems are getting digitalized, more and more data is getting generated, isn't it? So then the concept of the big data came into the picture. Okay, big data is all about performing or handling the data which is from the multiple sources and which is in the multiple formats. Okay, because earlier the data used to be only in the two-dimensional format, tables. Then the data became like, as I mentioned, the data might be a streaming data, the data is coming from multiple sources and all. So then the people realized there should be a way to handle the data. Then the big data came into the picture. Then when the evolution of the cloud came into the picture in the 2000s, late 2000, like 2010 or 2015, when the popularity of the cloud came into the picture, then the people realized, hey, big data is also on the on-premise environment. There should be a way to handle this so much of the data in the cloud. So then the concept of data engineering came to the picture, right? So data engineering is all about handling such huge amount of the data for the in the cloud environment. Okay, so that's how the data engine came into the picture. So that is the reason everyone started using the data. So and the data engine is all about getting the data, right? And also AI, ML, this AI, like artificial intelligence, data analytics, big data engineering, everything started pop up, and people realized there should be a way to handle such top of the data. So then the data engineering came into the picture. So in the companies, what they do usually, like companies, what they do, so usually they tap the data, then they will get all the data, because if you see any kind of the data, any kind of organization, the data will be multiple sources. Okay, There'll be some files data, there'll be streaming data, there'll be some database data. So they'll try to get all the data, integrate it so that the AI ML people or data analytics people will consume the data and they will perform analytics on the data. Okay. So AI ML people means artificial intelligence people. So these data scientist people will try to consume the data and they will they'll create the models for the future reference. Same thing, data analytics people will get the data, they will generate the reports out of it. Now, that is the responsibility of the data engineering to get this data, tap this data, and to make sure the data is available for these two guys in their required format. That is the responsibility of the data engineering. Okay. So data engineering, what do you do? He gets the data, he try to get the data from the multiple sources and try to get it and make sure the data is transferred so that the data science ML people and data analysts will consume the data in their required format. That is the responsibility of the data engineer. Now, as you see, more and more data AI jobs and ML jobs are getting increased. The same way, multifolded, the same way the data engineering jobs also will be enhanced. Because without data engineering, there is no concept of AI. Because it's the responsibility of the data engineer to provide such data. So that is the reason you see a good amount of the growth in the data engineering jobs, and by 2026 there is a 35% of the jobs are getting increased. And if you see any job portal and if you see any job trending market, you see the data engineering jobs are the top one uh, top one wanted jobs in the job market. Okay, if you see anything. Okay, I know, like in the era of AI and all allocation, so your this is kind of getting shaded, but if you see the real statistics, still there are more demand for the data engineer compared to any other role in the job market. You can verify that. Okay. So average in the US market, I'm talking about in the terms of the dollars. So 125K, the salaries in the 2024. Now you can imagine about now. Now it's the fastest growing tech role, as I mentioned just now. Okay. So what exactly they do? So as I mentioned, so they try to help to prepare the real-time dashboards, the forecasting, and also it helps in various sectors like banking, healthcare, e-commerce, manufacturing industry. All this runs on the data engineering. So as I mentioned, all the data, whatever the data is available in the multiple format, they'll try to get the data so that you will the analyst and all, they'll consume the data. That pattern is called a pipeline. Okay, so basically the data engineer builds the pipeline so that they will ingest the data and make sure that is available for the right people in the right format at the right time. That is the importance of the data engine, right? So that is the reason you see more and more transaction. So how exactly the companies uses, everyone knows. Say suppose the same example, if I use Swiggy example, now Swiggy, in the Swiggy you order something. Okay, now you, me, and everyone, so we order something. So what happens? They just don't sorry, they don't sit idle and just run the business. Okay, if they do, the business will collapse. Okay, every day what they will do, they will try to assess the things. Okay, how many orders I'm getting, so many, so like Madhapur area, and from so and so Mindspace area I'm getting so many transactions, sorry, many orders, and here the so and so area we are getting so many biryani orders, but there is no relevant partner to provide the bidder. So let's get more and more restaurants. Okay, and so area not getting much what do you call order, so let's add some discount for this. Okay, and so much so area, every Sunday evening 7 to 9 we are getting so many orders, let's add more delivery boys over here. Okay, so these kind of assessment they need to do. If they don't do, if simply if they're getting more orders and if they're not able to serve those many number of people, what happens? We are not going to order. And say suppose Zomato is providing 40% discount and I'm providing only 10% discount, the Swiggy, what happens? Obviously, you're going to order from the Zomato, right? So you need to be careful and ahead of your peers, your competitors. Then only you'll survive, right? So that's how you're going to generate the data, inside the data, and also they'll also create the models to assess the job market. Sorry, to assess the market, like in the next 2 years, okay, the area called like Gachibowli or Tellapur is going to get more and more apartments. So let's add more and more delivery boys over the period of time, and let's add more and more restaurants next 5 years. Invest so and so over here, right? So that's how they do the business. And if you see the same kind of like a hospital, and say suppose Apollo Hospital getting so many patients every day, just they don't treat and leave it there. Okay, they will assess. Okay, how many patients are coming for a day? Okay, how many heart patients are coming, and how many patients are with some what do you call this, knee issues. Okay, and how many doctors we need cardiologist for so and so thing. Okay, if they any advanced concept of any advanced operation methods coming into the picture, then try to adapt it so that people will get, you'll get more and more patients. Of course, hospital is also business, right? Then that's how they do the analysis. Say suppose from so and so area, like financial district, many more and more patients are coming nowadays. That means the population is increasing around financial district. Let's say set up a hospital over there. Let's add some doctors over there. Isn't it? That's how every organization, whether the hospital or the manufacturing industry or any eating joint, everyone industry, even a small shop, a Marwadi or a sorry, a small grocery store in your street also will do such kind of assessment. Otherwise, nobody is going to take care. If nobody is going to care about it, and the business will collapse. Okay, so that's how the data plays an important role. Now they know the importance of the data. So that is the reason they try to capture each and every data, and the data engineering helps them to collate the data, to modify the data so that the end user will capture the data, right? So that's about the data engineering at high level and the importance of the data I wanted to talk about, right? So basically what exactly the data engineer does actually, so data engineer builds the pipeline that carries the data from point A to point B. So as I mentioned, the data, like say suppose same Apollo hospital, some data might be in the files, the same data might be some videos, streams, and some data might be some photos like your X-ray and all. Some data might be in the database. The database also, some database might be in the what do you call, in the Oracle, and also they might have some ERP system like SAP and Oracle EPM. So much of data might be in different system. Now it's all the responsibility of the data engineer to get the data and put it somewhere so that the people will extract this data. So the data engineer build the pipeline to carry the data from point A to point B. Okay, so in between you perform multiple operations, like you do the extracts, transform, load the data. You will perform some transactions on the data. You will make sure only good data is getting generated, and only the bad data, like there might be some junk data, there might be some duplicate data, there might be data which does not have any data, like null data, right? So it takes care of all these things and ensure only the relevant required data in the right format is available for the end user, right? So as more and more data analytics projects increase, more and more data, AI projects getting increased, more and more data engineering. If you need a project for a one AI developer, of course you need at least 2 to 3 data engineers to get the data. So that is the reason more and more data engineers needed. So what exactly you do? You build manage data pipeline. So this is called a data pipeline. What is the pipeline? Pipeline is nothing but ingesting the data, transforming the data, and making sure to load the data in the right format, in the right place, in the right time is called a pipeline. So that pipeline will be developed by the data engineer. And where exactly you need to store the data you need to refine it, store it in a good manner or good format so that it is readily accessible, and also when you access, the performance also should be good. So that is the reason he also make sure he design that end database in a efficient manner. So he also designs data warehouse and data lake. So he performs extract, transform, and load the data, as I mentioned. He also builds and manages the data pipelines, as I mentioned, and also deploy cloud-based data. So once this solution, this pipeline got built, so he ensures those are deployed. And also, as I mentioned, he ensures data quality and security. As I mentioned, if there is a data like around million rows, and if you're like around 10,000 rows, does not have any significance. I mean to say, it has some junk data. Sometimes the data might be like does not have any values over there, then that doesn't make any sense. Okay, he ensure only qualified data is getting into the system. And also security, like say suppose the once the data is getting generated from what do you call it, from point A to point B, in between it is getting ingested, transformed in so many places, and if some unauthoritative user might come and they can get steal the data. Okay, so that should be careful. So that is the responsibility of the data engineer to ensure only valid data is getting passed through and the data is secured enough. And also sometimes if I want to pass, sorry, excuse me, and also there might be some data, some critical data like PI data, okay, personal identification data. Suppose your phone numbers, your credit card numbers, and all, and email IDs, right? So if you want to pass through, you need to ensure you're encrypting data, you're masking the data so that the data getting secured. Okay, so these all kind of measurements the data engineer has to do. So as I mentioned in the first statement itself, he enables analytics and AI teams. Okay, so analytics platform, like if you're Power BI developer or a Tableau report developer or any dashboard developer, data engineer ensures you are getting the right data. And also AI teams. So AI team, if they want to build if they want to build models, and if they want to create AI models, they need to get the data. So that is the responsibility of the data engineer, right? So that is the reason you see more and more jobs around the data engineering, right? So data engineer helps to build and manage data pipelines. He designs the data warehouses, he extract the data, and he ensures the data is qualified. He also ensures analytic people and AI people are getting the right data at the right time, right? So who can getting into the data engineering? I spoke about data engineering, how it helps, okay, and also it ensures that he also ensures the data is getting ingested from the many sources and all. Okay, so also I mentioned that the data engineer get the data from the real-time data or batch data. Usually the data will be two types of the data: batch data, real-time data. Batch data means like it's getting generated a fixed amount of time, your tables and all, it's a batch data. Real-time data means which getting streamed. Say suppose you are getting the electricity in your home. So what happens in higher environment, in the generation places, there will be a mechanism to check continuously your how much electricity is getting transferred, how much data electricity is getting consumed. So these are all the streaming data, right? And also like your banking transaction. So you're getting the account and you're swiping your credit card and all. So you're regularly observing the data. So that's called streaming data. So usually in the market, sorry, in the industry, you'll have the streaming data and the it's also called real-time data and batch data. So it's the responsibility of the data engineer to tap the data and help the people to get the insights. Okay, so who can get into the data? So if you're a database developer, you can get the data because you can directly transfer your SQL skills to the data engineer. It's not a great thing. And if you're a BI ETL developer, you already have like pipelines, mappings you are developing. So it's a big place you can directly get into the data engineering. And if you are the DBA who has some experience on the data operations and management, so you can easily get into the data engineering. And if you are a big data developer, and of course you must have the knowledge on the Spark, Hadoop, it's easy shift from there to here. And data analyst, suppose you have the data analyst. Now you know like data analyst jobs are getting reduced, honestly, if I say, based on my experience. And that is the reason people are asking data analyst plus data engineering, right? Both they are asking. So how do you have the analytical thinking, and if you have this data engineering, it will be added advantage for guys. And of course, if you're an app developer like .NET, Java, or any other application developer, getting this coding skill, already you have the coding skill, there's a big advantage. Of course, some people are asking exclusively app developers plus data engineering, right? And also if you create a QA engineer, of course, he has some at least analytical skills, but at least you will try to enhance those skills to safeguard your career. As you know, like with the help of automation and AI, the QA engineers are getting reduced the jobs, so it's good time to shift into data engineering. And of course, if you are fresher students, even some companies are hiring freshers directly, so it is good to kickstart your data engineering journey, right? So as a, like, if I can say honestly, anyone whoever has the passion to get into the data, it is a perfect platform to get into the data engineering, right? So what exactly is the pipeline actually? If I talk about one to one, like what exactly the phases of the data engineering actually? Okay, so I spoke about what is data engineer at the high level, what exact data engineer does, what you need to know, how who can get into the data engineering. So these are all speak. But if I talk about this specific slide, what exactly happens in the background actually? Okay, so if I talk about data engineering can be any cloud. Okay, so data engineering is all about handling the data in the cloud, whether it's Azure or GCP or in AWS, right? Any cloud. But particularly we are talking about Azure data engineering. So what exactly data engineering does? So for the first step is, this is very important. If someone asks you what exactly data engineering does, what exactly the pipeline, you should be able to tell. So first step is you will ingest the data. So you will pull the data from the streams, files, databases, APIs, so many places, and you will try to ingest the data. Ingesting means try to connect to that particular sources, and extracting the data is called ingestion. Okay, so in this particular example, in the Azure data engineering ecosystem, people usually use something called Azure Data Factory. Okay, then once it gets ingested, this is very important step, because you need to have the complete clarity on the connection details, what data you're going to get, what data is accessible. If some data is not accessible, try to get that. So these are all people will these are all these are all responsibility of the data engineer. So now ingesting data, then you will store the data somewhere. Okay, so but because always you should have the replica of the ingestion data, you cannot directly transfer data, because if you want to have some more mechanisms in the future, if you have some more requirements in the future, you'll get a problem if you don't store the data temporarily. So that's where you store the data temporarily. Okay, so here in this example, I am using something called ADLS Gen 2. We'll talk about what is data like Gen 2 in the future. So we are storing the data. Okay, so once you store the data, then you are going to process it. Okay, so you are going to clean, join the data, you transfer data. As I mentioned, like there is might be some data quality issues. You're ensuring the data is qualified enough to get into the system. So these are all transactions, you're all processing, you're going to do the data. So in this example, I'm using something called data bricks for transfer, right? So once it is done, then you're going to load the data so that the end user so then end user consume data. So here I can use the Fabric, I can use the Synapse, I can use the Snowflake, I can use anything. Okay, so once the data is getting ready, stored in the serve, then analytical people will consume data, like AI, PML people or any other people will consume the data and create AI models or prepare the dashboards of the data. Okay, so your role is from 1 to 4. Okay, so that's where the data engineering does. So data engineering is all about ingesting the understanding the source data, ingesting the data, store the data, process the data, serve the data. That's the data engineering job. Okay, and whatever the technologies that I mentioned over here, Azure Data Factory, ADLS, Fabric, Spark, Microsoft Fabric, all, so these are all not fixed. Fixed in the sense, if I'm using Databricks for processing, it's not mandatory that every time I'm going to use the same thing. No. Okay, next time I can use. So depending upon the data, if there is a less data, I don't need Databricks. I'll use the data factory itself to process data. And here for storing, I'm using ADLS Gen 2. If I have very less number of people and everything is like a database, then I'll use the database itself to store the data. Okay, and for serving, I'm using Synapse Analytics in this example. If I use huge data, I can use some other thing. And if I want to have some multi-platform, then I can use the Snowflake. Sorry, I'm done with code. Yeah, so this is how you have the data engineer perform various transactions, various operations during the data life cycle. Right? Any questions so far? Because after the end of the session, if someone asks you, hey, what data engineer does? So you should be able to answer it. Any questions so far? Any doubts? Okay, no questions. All right, I'll take it as no. Then, yeah. So within the data engineering, Azure data engineering, what are the things that you are going to learn or get? So if you want to become a good data engineer, sorry, Azure data engineer, what are you need to learn? So one is the Azure Data Factory. So Azure Data Factory is one of the ingestion tool where you connect plus 90 plus connectors and get the data. Okay, Azure Data Factory. Then the Azure Data Lake. So this is a secured cloud storage for structured data, unstructured data, all the data you can store the data in the data lake joint. Then the Synapse. So Synapse is kind of getting reduced now. I'll talk about it. Then the Azure Databricks. Without Databricks, there is no data engineering. Whether you are going for AWS, GCP, or Azure, without Databricks, there is no data engineering. So this is a Spark-based application to process the data, which is has the MPP architecture. So this is one of the important tool nowadays. Now, of course, Fabric. So Fabric is kind of integrated platform for all these things. So which is kind of evolving and gaining a lot of market share in the Azure ecosystem. There is a Microsoft Fabric. Everything is a single system. And of course, Azure SQL, because without a database, there is no data engineering. So you must have some knowledge on the database as well. So as part of the course, we are going to cover Data Factory, Data Lake, Databricks, Microsoft Fabric, and just one session on the Synapse Analytics. Because earlier, like few years back, Synapse Analytics used to be there. Now all these capabilities are shifted to Fabric, which started like couple of years back. So slowly, all the projects which are in the Synapse Analytics getting shifted to Fabric, and this is going to get decommissioned very soon, I feel. But yeah, so these are the 5 important things that you need to learn, and will be handling as part of this course. And additional to that, we'll have 2 sessions exclusively for Snowflake as well. So we don't need to learn Snowflake in the Azure ecosystem, but at least some introduction you will try to handle so that you will understand the terminology of the Snowflake as well. Right. So this is about the course content at high level we are going to handle, and detail you are going to get very soon. Right. So then what you need to learn to become a good data engineer? So SQL, you need to learn like querying the data, designing the data, normalizing, optimizing. So these kind of basics of SQL you need to learn, and you need to learn the Python, okay, like scripts, transformations, automation, and Spark. Of course, you are going to handle as per Databricks. What is a Spark? And you need to understand what is ETL, what is ELT pipelines, and right. So lakehouse architecture. Okay, we are going to build data lake, and we are going to talk about Medallion architecture, bronze, silver, gold, and we are going to talk about how to implement the security, how to monitor the database pipelines, how to mask the data, and we are going to handle the CI/CD for pipelines and how to do the cost management, and of course, apart from all these things, one important thing, if you wish to, you can even attempt a DP 700 and certification, which is the Azure Data Engineering certification. It's not Fabric Analytics. Like I think mistyped it. It's the Fabric Data Engineering certification. You can attempt it as well, so that you will get the data engineering badge officially from the Microsoft. Okay. So we are going to learn the SQL. We are going to learn for the Python basics and the Spark, of course, in the Databricks, pipelines development, lakehouse architecture, security, basic DevOps, and certification as well. So these are all the things internally will be covered as part of the certification, sorry, as part of the course, and also exclusive 2 sessions for the SQL, and 1 or 2 sessions on the Python also will be covered, like 2 to 3 sessions for the Python also will be covered. It's not about whole Python. You don't need to master the Python. Only whatever is relevant at the data engineering perspective. If you know that, that should be more than enough. Okay. So that also we are going to as part of the course. That is the reason. So that's how, even if you come with a no background, no IT background also, you can get into the course and you can learn the right. So that's about the data engine. And as I mentioned, DP 700 is talk about like data engineering certification. So it's plan, implement, manage data analytics solution, data fabric, manage data solutions, models, visualization. These are all the things you can get it. So as part of the course, you can learn the things, and even you can attempt the exam as well. And coming to this data engineering career path, like if zero to junior data engineers, like data engineers, senior data engineers, and if you are of course 8 to 10 years space, even you can get into the lead architect, and people getting easily like 50 to 80 lakhs in the real time, honestly. Okay. And as I mentioned, like in the banking, fintech, healthcare, e-commerce, MNCs, all these companies very fastly getting into the data engineering. Of course, every company is already got into data engineering, but even some of the legacy companies also, like if they are not data engineering market, not cloud, they are very fast getting into the data engineering, right? So that is the reason you see more and more jobs. And if you compare any other packages, even compared to AI people, more and more salaries around the data engineering in the job market, right? So what you are going to learn, so as I mentioned, so this is a generic thing which I created long back. 1 minute, let me remove that. Yeah, so 100% lab. So everything is like a live Azure environment. Very less slides, okay, like 1 or 2 slides in the for the to tell the introduction, but more of a hands-on. It's not a theoretical. Like almost 80% of the course is like hands-on, and of course you'll get the certification question banks. I'll try to provide DP 600. I just mistyped over here. And also placement support doesn't mean that we are going to show, I'm going to showcase the jobs, but at least for resume preparation, we'll try to help, and also resume preparation, and also LinkedIn optimization. How do you, sorry, in what way you can optimize your LinkedIn, and how the LinkedIn helps you. So these kind of things. Okay. So these are all the things I'm going to help. Right, and also like interview, so interview preparation questions, and also we'll try to have the mock interviews also. So those kind of assistance will provide, and of course at the end we are going to have a real-time project, one end-to-end project which span across all the covered technologies. Okay, so that you will be kind of hands-on all this project, you'll get the confidence. And of course live dot sessions, and also like if you have any questions offline, so you can always ask us, right? So this is about program. Yeah, yeah, that's how I want to talk about, right? So that's how we are going to cover everything, whatever is required, and more hands-on with the live projects. And believe me, if you compare with any other curriculum in the job, in the what do you call, in the training market, you'll find this as the best thing. Okay, that guarantee that we can give. And we have industry experts, and all the things are kind of real time. It's not like just to cover this 1 or 2 topics and go on. Okay, so what are the relevant topics? If I say 100 topics, I'm not saying that I'm going to cover all the 100 topics. Whatever the topics which are needed in the real time perspective, we are going to ensure we are going to cover all those topics with the real time scenarios, right? So step by step we are going to have everything in detail. All right. Okay. Anything else? Any questions that anyone has? So I think I'm done. Now it's your turn to ask any questions if you have. Either
Hello,
everyone.
hi. Can you please
Yeah.
introduce yourself, your experience, and all those industry experience?
Yeah. So myself PC. So I may not be able to tell my actual details, but yeah, at least myself PC. I have 20 years of IT industry experience, and of course I'm based out of Hyderabad, and currently working as a senior architect in one of the GCC in Hyderabad. And I have 20 years of experience all in the data, right from the database development to data architect. So I started my career with the traditional SQL Server, Oracle, Informatica jobs. So I work on the database developer, ETL developer, data engineering developer, data engineer, okay, senior data engineer, data manager, dev manager, and architect, okay, as a director. So many positions I held span across 20 years and multiple roles, multiple technologies, and I do have fair understanding on entire ecosystem in data field.
Okay, thank you. And whatever concept you teach us in SQL and Python or SpyPark, those are enough for
Yes,
this course. We don't need to look for any other thing outside
yes,
of
yes,
these. Okay,
yes, yes.
thank you.
In this course, right, you will tell in the whatever in the SQL and Python in the PySpark only you have to tell, right, all the things whatever in the concepts are covered in the ETL concepts and wherever in the introduce in the database concepts and all things like.
Yes, yes. The relevant Python, whatever is needed for the data engineering, that will be covered, and also the pipelines, the Spark, the SQL, what is relevant for the data engineering, that those all will be covered.
Uh,
One quick question, PC. So
Yeah.
why you choose that Azure DevOps engineer? Why not that AWS or GCP? What is the
Good
role of the
question.
Azure? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if you see the job market or if you see the cloud adoption, if you see last few years, you see more and more jobs around more and more cloud market around the Azure only. Okay. Many companies are getting into the cloud adoption with the Azure only. So that is the reason, of course, when you adopt the Azure, of course, you are going to have the technology stack around the Azure is itself. So that is the reason more and more companies are getting into that Azure data engineering. And even if you see, honestly, if you do the LinkedIn or any job profile or any job market, you see more and more opportunities for the data engineering Azure ecosystem only, not other ecosystem. There are there GCP and AWS, but very minimal if you compare to Azure.
Okay. Can I expect 8 out of 10 the jobs
Yes,
according to
yes,
Azure? Yeah.
definitely,
Fine.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, someone asked in the chat whether they can easy to understand without any technical background. Yes, without technical background also you're good to get in, honestly. So there are people who join manual courses without any ed background, they're able to crack it and they're settled. Okay, so far I trained around 2 to 300 students with 20 plus 20 to 30 batches so far from past 4 5 years in the Azure data.
With the course content, what you are going to teach in the next couple of months or something, uh, is it possible that we can at least, if we follow accordingly, uh, we can at least add this as 2 or 3 years experience?
Yes,
Because
yes, yes,
I'm from the
yes, yes,
previous IT background, from the
yes,
infrastructure
yes,
side.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's
You can have it easily. You can have it with two easily.
okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? So hope everyone got the essence of the session and everyone has the clarity. If you need more details, you can reach out as mentioned in the chat. And of course, in the next session also, we can have the doubts clarification in the first session. I mean, so whenever it starts next week or that next week, it will be decided. So in that, it will be covered.
Yeah. Is there any real time what did I say? Any programs are real times projects? I can say projects. Is there any
Real-time
projects?
project, yeah, that is one of the key feature, right, of this training. As I mentioned, there will be one real-time project will be covered. So I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to create that. I'm going to make sure you're all know about it and you are implement it. Okay, so one end-to-end real-time session. So real-time scenario based on my experience, I'll take it out and I'll make sure you are on it and you can work on it.
Yeah, got it. And how long this course will be? Like duration of the course?
It's like 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weekly 5 days. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, PC. Yeah.
All right. If nobody has any questions, we can stop and give the time for your weekend. And happy weekend and all the best. And we can talk in the first session whenever it start. Thanks everyone for taking time on a weekend morning and attending the session. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the best.
Thanks, PC. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.